This is 5 in 10 from Skywatch TV for Monday, June 10th, 2024. I'm Derek Gilbert. We're in Madison, Indiana. We are basically on vacation. Sharon and I just coming here to visit with her sisters and nieces and nephews for a few days after the Mysteries of the Bible Verse Conference upriver in Cincinnati over the weekend. A wonderful gathering. Thank you to our host of Southwest Radio Ministries for inviting us to take part in that. And again, this week and for the next couple of days, abbreviated versions of 5 in 10 as we are on vacation and really enjoying spending some time with family, but not wanting to leave you without anything from Skywatch TV for these next couple of days, especially as world events are happening at a quicker and quicker pace around us. Over the weekend, in particular, our one story we're going to talk about today, the rescue of 4 hostages from Hamas in the Gaza Strip by the IDF in a joint operation with Shin Bet and the Israel Police Force. This was a very complicated rescue operation that saved 4 hostages being held in the central part of the Gaza Strip after being held for 8 months. Now, the operation, again, took place in daylight, very complicated operation, and one of the rescue vehicles had to be extricated. It got stuck. And so other special forces had to come in, rescue the rescuers, as it were, and that got into a rather intense firefight. And because of that and some airstrikes that were called in to try to clear the path for the helicopter that was to take the hostages back to Israel from the shore of Gaza, we'll talk about that in just a moment, some innocent civilians died in the exchange of fire between Hamas forces and the IDF troops, Shin Bet forces, Israel police forces who were there to rescue the hostages. The number of dead differs depending on who's telling the story. Anywhere from 100 to 250 have been reported. 200 seems to be the number that the media is settling on. So 200 dead in central Gaza because of this rescue effort to save 4 Israeli hostages who'd been held by Hamas for some 8 months. Now, it turns out they weren't exactly being held by Hamas. These 4 were being held by a rather well-to-do family in Nuseirat, a town in the central part of the Gaza Strip, being paid by Hamas to keep the hostages in private homes. And this leads to the issue. Much of the commentary comes from the corporate media and from other commentaries on social media, commentators on social media, some self-appointed commentators on social media. We probably would fall into that category, to be quite honest, saying it's good that the hostages have been returned to their families, but there's an old saying that everything before the but is something you can ignore. Let's put it that way, because what they've put before the word, comma, but is intended to draw you in and say, well, I understand they agree with me. Here's a point I haven't considered yet. No, the words before the but is the stuff that they don't believe. And the people who are saying, but then follow it, is it really right that 200 had to die to rescue 4? Let's address that. The 200 civilians who died were in harm's way because Hamas chose to place the hostages in a civilian area. They weren't being held at a Hamas compound where a firefight to rescue those hostages would have included only Hamas militants. They were deliberately being held in a civilian zone. As I've said on this program previously, Hamas wants civilian casualties. They want the world to think that people in Gaza are starving because it serves their purposes. It has ratcheted up public opinion against the Israelis and the Israeli government. And the longer this goes on without the hostages being released, the longer this fight goes on with the world thinking the poor Gazans are starving, when in fact they're receiving more food aid now per capita than they were getting prior to October 7th, the greater world pressure builds against Israel. This is giving political and spiritual cover for many in this world to turn against Israel and paint them as the bad guys. We found this has led to Israelis just in a state of bewilderment, almost shock, when we visited there a month ago. They killed 1,200 of our people, they captured 240 more, and now the world thinks we're the villains in this piece? What's going on here? Why does the world hate us? Those were questions we were asked by Israelis that we met in random encounters. This is why Hamas is playing this game deliberately. Innocent civilians died. 200 died to save only 4. Look, I guarantee you, if it was your daughter, your son, being held by terrorists for 8 months, what price would be too high? And let me add this. Hamas itself has said that the civilians who died on October 7th on the Israeli side of the border, the men, women, children, elderly people trying to escape in the village of Sderot, 15 elderly people in a van trying to get away, killed because their van blew a tire. And these old people couldn't change the tire quickly enough to get away from the terrorists who gunned them down inside the van. Hamas calls them combatants because they're colonizers. They've stolen our land, so they're all valid targets. Well, how come that rule only applies for Hamas and not for the IDF? Well, that's a rhetorical question. The answer is because in the eyes of the world, the Jews have no right to the land. Anti-Zionist sentiment veers awfully close to anti-Semitism, anti-Jewish bias, and it is rising among a number of self-declared, proclaiming, professing Christians in this world. Some with some very loud megaphones on alternative media. I won't name names, but there are those who are declaring that Israel is illegitimate, as if God somehow woke up one day and said, "Oh my goodness, I didn't see that coming," back in 1948. Look, our Lord used polytheist pagan kings named Cyrus and Artaxerxes to send the Jews back to Jerusalem and then to rebuild the temple. Also to rebuild the wall, by the way, around Jerusalem. And Nehemiah sent his workers out with a trowel in one hand and a sword in the other. Look, civilian deaths are a tragedy, regardless of which side are the victims. We pray for peace in Gaza. Of course we do. We want no more civilian deaths, but Hamas deliberately places their countrymen in harm's way for their own political and religious ends, because to them, this is a holy war. In their minds, in Muslim religion, once a land has been controlled by Muslims, ruled by Muslims, it always belongs to Islam, which makes the irony of Spain recognizing independent Palestine just unbelievably hard to understand. Have you forgotten Andalusia? Muslims ruled Spain for 6 centuries. The last Muslim kingdom wasn't ejected from Spain until 1492. In the Muslim mind, the Muslim world, religious Muslims, fundamentalist Muslims believe Spain still belongs to Islam. So make no mistake, if Israel falls, Western world is next. I don't believe it will, because I do believe God has Israel's back. Not because Benjamin Netanyahu is a righteous man. Like him or hate him, this is not about Bibi Netanyahu or Likud or the right wing. This is about who controls the land that God decreed for himself, and those who are trying to take it from Israel. I'm sorry, if you're making excuses for them, you are on the wrong side of history. By the way, Spain, interesting story last week after Spain recognized an independent and free Palestine. Story reported by the corporate media that Spanish diplomats refuse to move to Ramallah, which would be the capital of a free Palestine, an independent Palestine. They don't want to live in Ramallah. They want to live in Israel. In fact, they want the embassy in Israel because it's safer. And they have, better phone service and better internet. You can't make this stuff up. One more story regarding Israel. Benny Gantz of the National Unity Party is one of the opposition parties, opposition to the ruling coalition of Benjamin Netanyahu, Likud, and their partners in the Knesset. He has resigned from the war cabinet, which now leaves just 2. Also, Gal Eisenkot, who had observer status in the war cabinet, member of Benny Gantz's party. He has also resigned. Gantz, make no mistake, is a tool of the Biden administration. Joe Biden's handlers, because I don't believe Joe Biden is dictating policy. I'm not sure Joe Biden knows where he is on any given day. They see Benjamin Netanyahu is a greater threat to Mideast peace than Iran. Or perhaps they see Benjamin Netanyahu and an independent Israel as a greater threat to Joe Biden's re-election. And that's why they want to take him down. Because Muslim votes in the swing state of Michigan might be key in this upcoming election. It's not the first time this has happened, by the way. When you read history, you see back in 1948, the reason Harry Truman was supporting Israeli independence was because he needed Jewish votes in key swing states to win the election against Thomas Dewey. So the Lord uses even that to accomplish his purposes. Well, there will be more tomorrow and Wednesday. Again, an abbreviated version of 5 in 10, call it 1 in 5, maybe 1 in 10. I'm not sure how long I've gone today. But coming up, a question rather important, especially because they've gone mainstream. Are UFOs real? Details on how you can find out this week on Skywatch TV, straight ahead on 5 in 10.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we want to take a quick break to tell you how you can get your copy of both of these incredible new works in the Out of This World and Gate of the Gods special offer. When you order this incredible offer from the SkywatchTVStore.com, you'll receive the brand new book, Out of This World, Are UFOs Aliens, Spirits, or Pure Hokum by Lieutenant Colonel Robert McGinnis, that exposes the faults in both the science and theology regarding the existence of UFOs. The very real possibility that UFOs are manned by extraterrestrial beings much smarter and far more spiritual than humans that are preparing to deceive mankind as we approach the biblical end times. The recent surge of UFO activity all around the globe, and why Lieutenant Colonel Robert McGinnis is calling for Project UFO, a national strategy to determine if we face an existential threat, and so much more. But that's not all. You'll also receive Gate of the Gods, Revelation, the Messiah, and the Second Coming of Babylon by Tyler Gilreath, that brings to life the war between Jesus Christ and the power of darkness as illuminated in the book of Revelation. A cosmic end-time struggle between the Hebrew king of promise and the Old Testament gods of Babylon. The hidden Babylonian framework in the book of Revelation that can only be seen through ancient Near Eastern eyes, unmasking Babylon the Great, and more. Also included in this must-have special offer for a very limited time, Lieutenant Colonel Robert McGinnis's best-selling book, Give Me Liberty, Not Marxism, and his book, Kings of the East, China's Plan to Eliminate America and Impose a Communist World Order. All of these items hold a retail value of $84. Yours now for your donation of only $45, which includes free shipping to all U.S. orders. So don't delay. You can scan the QR code on your screen using the camera app on your phone for instant access to this special opportunity. You can also visit us at SkywatchTVStore.com or call 1-844-750-4985 and ask for the Out of This World and Gate of the Gods special offer right now.
Lieutenant Colonel Robert McGinnis, uniquely placed to address this question. His new book, Out of This World, Are UFOs Aliens, Spirits, or Pure Hokum? That's the topic of this week's broadcast program, Skywatch TV, featured alongside a new book by Tyler Gilreath, Gate of the Gods. Yes, a deep study on Babel and Babylon. Don't miss this 4-week series. You can see it right now at skywatchtv.com. All of our broadcast programs are always there. You can also catch it right now at our Roku and Apple TV channels. Better yet, catch it at Rumble, rumble.com/skywatchtv, or youtube.com/@Skywatch Television. Yeah, we're back on YouTube now for the main program. But even better than that is to get our free mobile app, because that bypasses the gatekeepers of big tech. Our mobile app, available for iOS, Android, Amazon Kindle Fire phones and tablets. It's absolutely free, and we've got links to their app stores at skywatchtv.com/app. Follow us on social media. You'll find us on YouTube at 5in10, on X at 5_in_10. And until tomorrow, thank you for watching as we keep watch. I'm Derek Gilbert. This is 5 in 10 from Skywatch TV.